What is great sex for a man? 10 things guys like in bed the most. Hey everybody, I am Kevin Anthony for Magnetize Your Man, and I am a certified sexologist, NLP practitioner, and sex, love, and relationship coach. And for over 10 years, I have been helping men, women, and couples have the relationship of their dreams and the best sex of their lives. All right, number 10, men really like it when you are really into what you are doing, when you're really into the sex, when you're approaching it from the point of view of, I really love what I'm doing, I'm happy to be doing this, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing in this moment, you're excited, you're motivated. That makes such a difference. And this is true for both men and women. A lot of times, especially men, really focus on wanting, I need to know this exact skill and I need to master these techniques. And while knowing skills and mastering techniques are great, you can make up for a lot of that simply with your enthusiasm for what you are doing. And if you do learn the skills and then you put that together with that enthusiasm, that's when it gets really good. So don't overlook that. I think a lot of times people, and this can be true on both sides, but people will kind of go through sex as if they're just kind of going through the motions. Especially, we have to realize, right? Sex is a co-creation. It's between two people. Not all the time that we have sex are we as up for it maybe as our partner is. But because we love our partner, because we want to please them, because we know that sex is an important part of a healthy relationship, we might say, well, I wasn't necessarily in the mood, but I'm going to do it anyway. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not doing something that you really don't want to do. But the point is that even if you're in that space, you got to sort of rally a little bit and get that enthusiasm going, because that's what really makes the difference between okay sex and great sex. Okay, that brings me to number 9. At number 9 is men like to take charge in the bedroom. Now, I'm not saying that they always want to dominate and that you're never allowed to initiate or take charge. That's not necessarily the case at all. But in general, men do like to take charge. They like to be in control of the flow and what's happening. Now, this can actually get really, really fun if you can really master the art of being in your feminine power, because you get to sort of lead in a sense while he's actually the one still leading. And I talk about this in a lot of other videos too. It's a little bit of a subtle skill, but it's extremely powerful. When you as a woman can get into that space of really just opening and letting go, but at the same time using your feminine power to sort of guide where it's going. So don't necessarily think when I say that he likes to take charge that it means that you have to be completely passive and do nothing. That's not what I'm saying. But in the sort of power dynamic play, it's really cool if you can soften and be in your feminine and kind of have him, step up and take charge, even though we both know you're definitely guiding what's happening. Number 8, men like it when you initiate at least some of the time. And the reason for that is, as men, we can tend to get frustrated if we feel like we're the only ones that ever want to have sex, if we feel like we're the only ones who are ever initiating. It starts to become more of a, we're forcing our will, we're taking, as opposed to this is something that we're both wanting to do regularly. So again, I'm not saying that you need to initiate all the time, but I am saying that every once in a while, it's really hot for us if, you come up and initiate and just, rub your body up against us, grab our crotch, pull our pants down, and whatever it is, some way that you're initiating. And there are really subtle but powerful ways that you can initiate that don't require you to necessarily grab your man and throw him down on the bed, right? There are definitely a lot of other ways. And when you can master those feminine ways of initiating without being too forceful or forward, it is a huge turn on for men. All right, number 7. Men love it when you wear sexy lingerie. I know I've talked about that in other videos. It's just a huge turn on. What's very interesting about it is it doesn't necessarily make logical sense, right? Because We may have seen our woman naked many, many times, and yet when she wears, lingerie that technically covers up more, obviously, than being naked, somehow it's still often even more of a turn on. There's just something very sensual, sexy, feminine about seeing a woman wearing beautiful lingerie. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have a whole closet full of expensive lingerie, although you certainly can if you want to. It doesn't mean that you have to, wear this sexy lingerie all the time, because I know sometimes some of those things aren't necessarily comfortable, and, unless it's a planned date, you may not have been expecting to have sex in that moment. But you can wear just regular, underwear and bras that tends to be a little bit more on the sexier side. And these days, there are so many more options. You can get things made out of cotton that still have sexy little bits of lace in them. You can still have things that are comfortable, but yet have a sexy style to them. So think about things like that. When a man does start to undress you and he starts to see that, you have something on that's even just a little bit sexy, it's quite the turn on. All right, number 6. Guys like to change positions during sex, especially if he tends to be the one taking charge and he tends to be in positions that require a lot more strength and stamina, holding himself up, holding you up in a certain way. Men like to change positions. And I don't hear this a ton, but I hear this somewhat regularly, where one person or the other, and it's not always the woman, sometimes it's the man too, they get stuck in this, like, sex always has to be this way. Either has to be this position or these two positions. We start here, we finish here kind of thing. And it really is a big turn on and a lot of fun, especially for men, to do different positions. Now, I know, ladies, most of you are thinking, well, yeah, of course, the same for us. Absolutely. Absolutely, it is the same for you as well. But just know that most men will like to do that. They'll want to potentially start on top. They might want to move to a doggy. They might want to have you on top. And there are positives to all of those for us as men, and it's really fun to mix it up a little bit, change things up a little bit, and do some different positions. All right, and that brings me to number 5. You're going to laugh because I say this in pretty much every video I do on this channel that has anything even remotely to do with sex, but it's true. That's why I keep saying it. And that is, men really love it when you incorporate a blowjob at some point into the lovemaking. It can be before, it can be in the middle, it can be after, it could be all three of those. Doesn't really matter. It's just something that men really enjoy. It's something that works really well for us. And so, even if you are hot and heavy and you go straight for the penetration, doesn't mean that afterwards you can't do a little bit of oral sex. Of course, that goes both ways for sure, as most of these things do, but just know that that is something that men really do appreciate and like to have included in their sex sessions. All right, number 4, men really love it in bed when you make noise. It is a huge turn on to hear you breathing heavy, to hear you moaning. The closer you get to orgasm, the more the intensity of the noises can build up. The volume might build up. The types of noises you make might change. All of those things are really a big turn on for us as men. Now, one of the reasons for that is, down inside of most of us, there's always a few outliers, but of most of us, we want to please our women. We want to know that you are enjoying it and that we're doing a good job. And so when you make noise, that is one of the things that signals to us that, yes, you are enjoying this and what we are doing is working. And that really becomes a big turn on. It's also a little bit of a boost to our confidence as well. So, if you've been holding back, worried about what you sound like or what he's going to think about you, because I know some women do that, don't hold back anymore. Just let it out. It is a huge turn on and your man will absolutely love it. All right, and that brings me to number 3. Number 3 is men really love it when you ask them, especially in sort of a yearning kind of a fashion, to penetrate them. So this is something that you can do. Let's say you start out, you're doing the lovemaking, there's some foreplay going on. Maybe you went down on him, maybe he went down on you. You're using your hand, whatever it is, whatever's going on. As the energy is building in you and you're getting more and more turned on, yes, of course, you can wait for him to, get to the point where he's wanting to come penetrate you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's say, as a man, I'm going down on a woman, and then she, grabs me and says, get up here and penetrate me. It is a huge, huge turn on. That fact that we know that you are yearning for us to be inside you is a huge turn on, and something that men really do love to hear. Okay, and number 2 things that men really love in bed is we love it when you orgasm. And the more, the better. Now, I don't want you to hear that as pressure, as something that you have to do, because it isn't something that has to happen, but it is something that we really love. And, as we're going through love making and you're having these waves, right? And you're reaching an orgasmic wave and coming back down and then hitting another orgasmic wave, and you're making the sounds and your body's moving and you're indicating that that's what's going on for you. It is absolutely a huge turn on. So we do really love it when you orgasm in the sex sessions, regardless of how we're doing it, whether we're using our hands or oral sex or, using our actual penis. We love it when you orgasm during sex. Now, I understand that sometimes that's just not possible. Maybe the headspace you're in, maybe the physical space that you're in, maybe the time constraints of the lovemaking or whatever else is going on. I understand that's not always possible. But just know that you coming to a climax is something that is a big turn on for us as men. Now, most women don't necessarily have a problem with that because, it's generally a little lopsided where, he's trying to hold out long enough and he will actually often orgasm before you do. So that leads a lot of women to try to rush to their orgasm because it's like, hey, I got to get mine in before he does. I totally understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing I do sometimes see, though, in that situation is that once you get there to that first one, you're kind of like, okay, I'm good. And I would suggest that you stay with it, especially if he can continue to keep going, and build that energy again and go through as many of those waves of orgasmic bliss and pleasure as you can, because the more you do that, the more of a turn on it is for him. The more your sexual energy will just blast him, and he will walk away from that experience thinking it was the most amazing, mind-blowing sex he has ever had. All right, and here we go. The very last one, number 1 thing that men love in bed. They love it when you ask us to ejaculate / orgasm. So when you are excited about it, when it's something that you want, in the various places that can be, that really is a huge turn on. So if it is something that you do enjoy or something that you're wanting in that moment, then by all means voice it and let him know and say, I would really love it if you. It is a huge turn on for a man. Now, if it's not something that you're into, you don't have to say anything, obviously. And I would hope that you find a man, or that your current partner is somebody that doesn't feel like they always have to ejaculate. This is something that I teach men all the time, that you do not need to ejaculate every time you have sex, or she gives you a blowjob or a hand job or whatever it is. So I teach men to cultivate that sexual energy and choose when they do or don't want to ejaculate. And so, there are times for me as a man where I'm like, no, I don't feel the need to today, right? And we can have sex for as long as we want, and I have no intention of doing that. But then if she specifically asks for it, then I'm like, oh, well, okay. Since you asked for it, I'd be happy to, right? So it is quite the turn on when you do ask for it. And then, of course, once we have, letting us know how much you enjoyed it is also a big turn on. Don't forget to take our free polarity quiz at polarityquiz.com. And if you're looking for more of my work, you can find it at kevinanthonycoaching.com/link in bio. Right there, that will take you to a page that has links to everything that I am doing, and both of those links will be in the description below.